Hello, everyone. This is Kathy Abraham and Father Gregory with Your Voice TV. We are very blessed and honored to have with us today His Grace Bishop Serapion. Thank you, Sayina, for being with us today on the show. As many of you know, Bishop Serapion was in Egypt and he just got back last night. So we'd like to welcome you home.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Sayina.
Thank you.
All of us living here in the U.S. and abroad have had to rely heavily on the media and the internet and TV to kind of get a sense of what's been going on in Egypt since the Pope's departure. And we'd like to hear from Sayidna what your experience was like when you arrived in Egypt, the first couple days you got there. What was it like in Egypt?
When I arrived in Egypt on Sunday midnight, so I went on Monday, which was the Feast of the Cross. So I went to the cathedral early in the morning, and of course there was a lot of people there already, even it was 6:30 in the morning, and the feeling of the people about feeling missing His Holiness, and they're coming to see him because they put him on his chair, and people coming line up to see His Holiness. We sensed the feeling of the people, and also their patience to stand for hours, waiting to have their turn there. We celebrated the liturgy of the Feast of the Cross, and then after we finished, I was going out, and it was very, very difficult to get out of the cathedral because of the crowd and number of people and their emotion, and also is not was organized as we expect it to be. It's very hard to organize it in the right way.
Right.
And then the day after, that's Tuesday, was the funeral day. When we went, also the funeral, many people came, many dignitaries, and also the church, leaders of the church, was the Patriarch of Ethiopia, the Patriarch of the Syrian Orthodox Church, and many representatives. Of course, it was very moving experience to be in the funeral, with all the hymns and all this number of people. And then after that we went to the monastery. His Holiness, they brought him by a special plane, which offered by the military councils. And they went to the military airport near the monastery, and they to bring him with cars. And even it was announced that the burial will be private, limited to the bishops and the clergy, but thousands of people came there. And of course it was very hard. It took a long time to allow to get the casket out of the car and bring it inside. So it is a mixture of feeling the pouring of love, which people show, not only Christians, but also Muslims, even with the simple people. And one of the stories that is in the plane from London to Cairo, one of the cabin crew came to me and said, I am a Muslim, but I am coming to express my heartfelt condolences. And she spoke very highly about His Holiness. And it is not a loss for the Christian, but for also as a Muslims, what we can do in this situation. So I thank it here. I think it is enough good feeling.
That's nice.
So I was coming spontaneous feeling.
Yeah. So it sounds like, I mean, it just affected Egypt as a whole, not just the Christians.
Yeah,
everyone.
sure.
Wow. We understand that towards the end of His Holiness's life, he was ill. But besides his illness, is there anything that you know about his final moments, or anything that he wanted to share specifically, any wishes or comments he had regarding the Coptic Church or the Coptic people in general before his passing?
His Holiness in his last days, he focused more on how to serve the people. Until the end, he's never give up. Now I'm leaving. I remember that is when after he returned from America, and the doctor told him there is no any hope for any medical treatment, and so he preferred to go to Egypt. And I went to see him, and it was an early in the Wednesday. Sit with him about 1.5 hours. But at the beginning, I asked about his health. He said, all my life in the hand of Christ. And he started to speak about the service. He asked me about the mission which he sent me to Switzerland to deal with some issues there, and what is to happen in the futures. And so all his talk about the service, about the future. He never spoke now, I am, so what will happen after me, or any advice regarding this. But it was very clear that is, to the last minute, I'm serving the people, doing my best to serve them as I can. And then I leave the church in the hand of Christ. My responsibility ends when Christ called me.
Takes me.
This is the end of my responsibility.
Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. So dedicated.
Sayyidina, the relationship in the clergy is father and son relationship. And we know from the history of the Pope that he suffered being put in the monastery of Mbapshoy, and your grace was a monk of that monastery as well. This brings us to two questions. What was the Pope like during this period? And if your grace have any personal stories, relationship, memories, history of that period?
During this time, even it was a very difficult time, because we were surrounded by over 400 from police, and besides the police officers, and also it was prevent anybody to come and in or go out, and especially the first months until the assassination of Sadat, anything could be expected. What is the next move which will happen? Of course, being in the monastery, what is about the church, but we find His Holiness was very calm, very joyful, to radiate joy on all of us, and we enjoyed that His presence was us. Of course, as new monks or the general monks, we don't realize the consequences or the aspect of this. Maybe some of the leaders of the church, or maybe Ambassador Abamon at that time, have more understanding about the impact of this. And we remember His Holiness, that is, he's usually come, practice and lead us in prayer, and then also spend time with the monks, start to know them by names. Specifically, I mentioned the 6th of October. This is 1981. I remember that I was with him in his cell, helping him in some things, because I used to be close to him, because I was taking care of general supervision about his health, if anything to happen. So we were walking with him, coming from his cell to going to the monastery. Then one of the monks, who was originally from England, and he joined the monastery, and he used to listen to the BBC English, which was not usual things in the monastery.
An advanced monk.
But he heard in the BBC that Sadat was attacked. So he ran and met us, His Holiness. I walked with him, and then this man came, and then he told His Holiness. The first reaction, that is, he said, we pray God to save him. He said the media, the BBC, this was 2 p.m. So it was not yet announced that he died. So his first action is, we pray God to save him. He didn't mention this is a punishment from God, this is because what he did for us. And then later on, few hours later, it was announced that he died. Sadat died. Then he said, we pray for the country. That is, because we didn't know what behind this. We are in the monastery, we are limited in our knowledge. Few hours later, then we knew that his Grace Bishop Samuel was assassinated too. Then in the meeting, which we usually have in the evening, that His Holiness come and speak to the monks. And in this meeting, I remember that His Holiness dedicated this meeting to speak about Amba Samuel, his contribution to the church and his work, his relationship. And he wept, he cried in front of us about Amba Samuel. And we felt that his heart, his feeling. He didn't remember anything about this committee replacing him, and before that, of course, when this committee formed, they came and promised that they follow his orders, and he left and couldn't do anything. And we was in very difficult situation, and His Holiness sent a letter to Amba Samuel about some things, even asking some of his private things to allow him to brought them from his residence
to the monastery.
To the monastery. And it was said that as Amba Samuel was planning to come after the parade to visit His Holiness. So even he suffered, and he was not happy with the things how was moved after during this month. But at this moment, he only remembered Amba Samuel, his contribution, his love, and in a very honest way, which of course, to cry in front of us, to weep in front of us. So we remember this aspect, which is show who is His Holiness, his pure heart and forgiveness, his care for the church, his care for the country and the difficult situation.
Thank you, Sayyid.
Yeah. Thank you. We understand, Sayyidina, that Your Grace is one of the 9 chosen bishops to be part of the nominating committee for the Patriarch Chair. And we just want to understand what exactly is the duties and obligations of that committee.
The committee is responsible to come, the utmost responsibility is to bring at the end of a list of from 5 to 7 candidates for election. So the process started by we receiving a recommendation from people, because nobody will come and say, I want to be a patriarch.
Right.
But either 6 bishops or 12 lay persons from the Majlis al-Milli, the community councils, they present to the committee, that is, we recommend this name, and have to prepare a file.
Okay.
We formed a forms to help them to bring detailed information about the person they recommended.
I see.
So this committee will start receiving this requested after we celebrate the 40-day commemoration of His Holiness,
Okay.
which it will be on the, we have 3 days, starting from the 24th, 25th, 27th of April. And then until the 17th of May.
Okay.
After that, the committee will look to this request or this recommendation and form the first list, which calls the preliminary list,
Okay.
which will include whatever the number which we will get,
Okay.
so long as they fulfill the basic requirements. And then they announce this, and it was a chance for people who look to this name, is anybody has any objection against, so they can present it through one of the voters in the list of the voters. Then it will be left for 15 days, and after the 15 days it's closed, there's no any objection to be received, and then we start the hard work to examine all these objections very carefully, and after we clear this, the names which will remain, then we have to do to screen them to bring a maximum of 7. And the decision of the committee is a final decision. Nobody can challenge the decision of the committee. After the final list, then it will be announced again, this is the final list, and to have the election day 1 month after. So the voter will go and then do the election, and those who get the highest 3 positions go to the lottery or lot.
Alter lot.
Alter lot.
So, like, how long would you predict, would your grace predict that this process would take to elect a new pope?
According to the bylaws, that is after 2 months from the day of the departure,
Okay.
we will close it with the 17, and then another 1 month to finish with in objection and the preliminary list, and then suppose another month, which is 4 months. That is, we have the final list, and then another month for the election. So by the 5th month of the day of the departure of the 17th of March, supposed to be the day of the election.
Okay.
The challenging time is the time of the studying the objection, because we don't know. We may receive 1 objection, we may receive 100 objections.
That's true.
And whether these objections will be easy to study it, or it need a lot of work. Especially, we agreed that is, we can call the candidates to respond to this objection if we find some valid objections.
So maybe, like, would you say the least, the minimum would be sometime in August, because that would be
Yeah,
5 months
5
from March.
months.
Okay.
And then the election, and then the first Sunday after the day of the election is the day for the Divine Liturgy and the altar lot.
Okay.
A quick question related to this is, Sayyidina, there's obviously 2 qualifications here. There's the qualification of the candidates and the qualification of the voters. So can Your Grace give us a summary who could be qualified as a candidate and who could be qualified as a voter?
The candidate, there's basic things like to be a member of the Coptic Orthodox Church. Unfortunately, only the Egyptians to run should be an Egyptian nationality. Did mention anything about double nationality because it doesn't exist in the 57. And to be 40 years or above, and have at least 15 years in monastic life, and it should be from among monks, whether just a monk or a priest or a bishop or a metropolitan, and to be with a good conduct, no any judgment against this, either civil judgment or church judgment. And this is the criteria about the candidate. The voters, we have categories. Some categories are fixed, like the member of the Holy Synods, like the member of the Majlis al-Milli, the community councils, the ministers, the Coptic ministers, the current or former, the members of the parliament, the existing member of the parliament, and then 24 priests from Cairo and 7 priests from Alexandria, and then 72 lay person from Cairo and 24 lay person from Alexandria, and then every diocese to bring 12 lay person plus the deputy of the diocese, the priest, and sub-deputies, al-wukala, and the journalists. We have 3 categories under the journalist. The owner of a magazine or a newspaper, and the chief editors, and then the journalist of a daily newspapers. In condition that they are registered as a journalist in Egypt. So this is the categories of the voters.
The voters.
Plus, it should be general rules. No, it should be 35 and above, not less than that. It should be Egyptian nationality
As a
again.
voter. Okay.
And of course, it could be a member of the Coptic Orthodox Church, also of good conduct.
Okay, thank you.
Quickly related to this, because we're here in the United States, if I don't know if this is decided by the Synod or not yet, what about the voters who are outside of Egypt, or it's not taken in consideration at all?
No, we take in consideration. Some of them are very straightforward answer for that. That is in the places where there is a diocese. Because the bylaws, they said every diocese to bring. It does not limit the number of the diocese. So any diocese, whether in Egypt or outside Egypt, will fulfill this category. Then we decided that is we consider the places which supervised by a general bishop to be dealt with as a diocese.
Okay.
The problematic part is areas where there is no general bishop and not incorporated as a diocese, which mainly in Europe, because in America and Canada, there is a diocese called the Archdiocese of North America,
Okay.
which incorporated as a non-profit corporations as a diocese.
Okay.
So it was very easily to consider the rest as a diocese. Plus, there are two general bishops, Amba David and Amba Michael. The problem is more in Europe, because in Europe we have a variety of things. There are dioceses where is a bishop of a diocese, like Italy. There are two dioceses. In England, there are two dioceses. In Austria, there is one diocese of Austria. Then there's an area where there is a general bishop responsible for, like in Germany. And also there is a diocese of the Scandinavians. So this is another diocese. Then there are areas where does not fill neither diocese, neither under is a general. Or a general bishop like Amba Angelus, he is not responsible. Is in the Stevenage, but Stevenage, this is a center. There is no geographical area. And then we have two dioceses, which headed by non-Egyptians. The British Orthodox have the Metropolitan Serapion, and the French Orthodox, which was the Bishop Athanasius. So this is because, according to bylaws, they have no say in that. We have in Africa, there are two general bishops, so we can consider it as a diocese. We have a diocese where there is no Egyptians, like Bolivia, when only the bishop and maybe one priest or two who are the Egyptian. But all the people, the whole congregation are Bolivians. And then Brazil and Uruguay, with the majority, are non-Egyptian. Maybe there is no enough number, there are less than 12 Egyptians. So we thought that is maybe these people, these places, can bring people, Egyptian from other areas, and put it under their delegates to fulfill the 12, which are given a chance for them. So that is a challenge, because of course when this bylaws was formed in 57 and even was amended in 71, there was a limited number of people outside Egypt. And of course the challenge is in any diocese, that is, people say, okay, well, how about 12? But what about the other people? That's why here in Los Angeles we will make a pilot project that is to, besides the 12 will be like delegates, and we will have one Sunday after the final list to be formed to ask the people to express their opinion, and then so we get the general feeling for the whole diocese. So these 12 people, they convey this. Is not going to express their own personal opinions, but what is the diocese agreed on. So it is a way to open it to the other people to participate.
Okay, very good. Very good.
Looking forward, Sayyidina, in your Grace's opinion, what qualifications or characteristics do you think would be beneficial for our new Pope to to have in this time that we are in now?
Firstly, to understand the signs of time. Yeah, every pope come at a time which is different than the others. So definitely the church is going to a new phase with all what's happening in Egypt, which is reflect on the people.
Right.
And to have the ability to understand these changes. And now he was becoming a pope for a church in the home country, Egypt. There's a lot of changes. And also there's now the church which extended in the sixth continent of the world. How to move. One of the biggest challenges when you come after a great personality and very charismatic. Some people, they feel, I try to imitate him, which this is a big mistake.
Right.
Because you cannot, because you are different.
That's true.
And there are many things which His Holiness is doing, which is because of his personality, because of his talents. So it's not necessarily for every pope to have the same talents. It's very hard to have cloning is not yet
We haven't achieved that quite yet. Yeah.
How to be your own and at the same time to avoid the comparison. Yeah, don't live in the shadow of your predecessors. People will compare.
That's true.
But you don't compare, because if you compare, then you will lose. So either to try to offset this influence or to imitate it, which both of them are wrong, because you are different.
Right.
I think what is important is to move from the Pope as a person to be the Pope as administration. And here in the United States, you say the president or the administration, Obama administration.
Right.
It's not only the President Obama, but administration. So now the church to move to have a team. No one, His Holiness depended a lot on his strong personality, and his strong memory. And so now we're coming in a phase because any person will not handle it without a team.
Right.
So we need, that's why in the file which we asked about the candidate, what his experience in administration. That is very important.
That's true, yeah.
For that. And also the understanding of the authority in the church, the obedience in the church. You have a variety of people.
Right.
We have American, Australians. They have a different concept of respect.
Right.
How to understand this. That is to be one, you are a father for everyone, not for a certain group.
Right.
Also, how to deal with the bishops. You have a synods now of 91 different backgrounds. And His Holiness, because of his fatherhood, most of them, or all of them, he ordained like his children. But now you are coming in a different aspects.
Right.
So either to stop the work of the Holy Synod until the generation pass, or you have to deal with it. You have to deal with this and accept that is to hear different opinions and how to, which I think Bishop Metropolitan Bartholomew was very good on that, because when he came and took this responsibility, he is very good in listening, allowing to speak, and then how to control decisions and the meeting, depending on not on his personality as a father of this bishops and metropolitan, but the rules of the discussions. and the way of a conclusion coming to a decision. So this kind of transparency. Then the role of the lay people, the clergy and lay people, how instead of having confrontation to work together. And then what is the role of women in the church? The church have to look to this in a very careful way, and how to benefit from the talents of the woman without violating any of the canon. And we have to go to the early church and see how it dealt with this, and not to be a slave of the cultural issues, or to move with fear. And we are surrounded by churches when they call for the ordination of women, feminism, and all these things. If we react to this movement by avoiding to do anything to encourage the role of women, because they will do this, will lead to this kind of movement, then we will not go further.
We will paralyze the role of women.
Yeah, and also the churches in America and in Europe, we have to a new concept of what is the meaning of being a part of the church. It's not only the administration that can, if we lived by the fear of the separation, always put in the mind, these people one time will be separated, and we have to avoid this. And so we prevent anything to be special, so to avoid the separation.
Yes.
I don't think that it will work out. This will not help. Of course, His Holiness has his influence because of his personality, but people we need answers which convince them about how the church will deal with. That's why anyone to come to this position should have some experience with the churches outside Egypt, because it now represents a good part of the church. Of course, it's a language to be able at least to communicate with them in at least the English language.
Yeah. Well, I guess closing one chapter, as we are closing one chapter in Coptic history and opening a new one, is there anything that Your Grace would like to tell the Coptic youth about the future of the Coptic Church and all over the world, here in America and all over the world? Is there anything you'd like to say?
I say to them, you are the future of the church. If you want to be sure about the future of the church, then you be committed to the church and serve the church and believe in the importance of the church in your life, understand your church, be committed to the church, because the future is in your hands through the work of God in you. Don't wait for somebody to define this future. You have to define this future, and you have to participate in making this in this future. So you are not only the future, but also you are the present of the church, the present and the future of the church. Don't be just watching.
Right.
So instead of writing history, but to be makers of history. That is to be moved and participate and understand all the situation and communicate with the youth in other places and let your voice to be heard, and be sure that is things will be good. And above all, that is the importance of prayer. When in this process, whatever we as a human can do, but at the end we are limited. So it is a time to pray. That is God to guide us and to point to who the one who is going to lead us in this coming year.
Well, it's very nicely said. Thank you, Sayyidina.
Thank you.
We want to assure Neftik Sayyidina that the youth are very interested in following the process very accurately, So
very good.
they're very hungry for the information. So meeting with Your Grace after this long trip and long priest meeting and conveying this message to them is really a quick answer to their needs.
And may I add one point?
Please add whatever Your Grace
Don't be
wants.
frustrated with these bylaws.
Right.
I know that there are a lot of frustration.
Seems rigid.
When it comes 35, it have to be Egyptians and all these things.
Yes.
We accepted to follow these bylaws because the other option is to make amendment now. It will open for us a process which we don't know how long it will take, whether it will become to a conclusion or not. So we choose this not because this is the ideal one. So please understand the situation in which and how we are trying to adapt it to the situation. Whatever we are going to do will not make the right adaptation, definitely, from now. But this understanding is very important for us and for you, the youth, especially in America and outside Egypt, when it comes to these issues of 35 is not young. So if people are younger than that when they have very big positions and very influential.
Yes. And voting power.
Yeah, you're speaking about 18.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes, you're right.
Don't be frustrated, and hopefully when the time comes, we do amendment also, we will consider it, and you will be part of this amendment.
Okay.
God willing. Thank you, Sayed.
Thank you very much, Sayyidina, for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thanks for being with us today. You can view all of our clips on our website, www.yourvoicetvshow.com. Have a good night, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.